Looks like the first item on the agenda is a very special presentation by the greatest showman himself, Mr. Dwayne Ballou of the Relay for Life American Cancer Society. Mr. Ballou, you are recognized, and we're honored that you're here. We enjoyed your movie and the Broadway show.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's always nice to be recognized, regardless of the dress. Seriously, thank you, Mayor Brooks, members of the Cleveland City Council. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to make some brief comments about this year's Cleveland Relay for Life. I've had the good fortune and pleasure of being involved with the American Cancer Society for a very long time. And this year, something is happening with the relay scheduled for April 29th that for old-timers like me and some other people in the room who have been affiliated with the relay, we're coming back home, so to speak. When we organized all this many, many years ago, the relay was in downtown Cleveland. And for a few years, we were a little bit, we traveled a bit. We were at all the different high schools, and I greatly appreciate all of their help and support throughout the many years. But for old-timers like me and volunteers with the ACS, it's nice to be back downtown. Saturday, April 29th, around the courthouse, we'll use the plaza as our main staging area. We open at 4:30 that day with a dance troupe from the Cleveland City Ballet, followed by a dance team from Cleveland Middle School. At 5 p.m., Mayor Brooks and Bradley County Mayor Davis will welcome everyone. We'll follow that with the prayer and national anthem. And then we open as we always do, with the people that we salute and honor at every relay with the most attention that we can provide, survivors. So one thing I would ask of you right off the bat, if you know someone who's a cancer survivor, I'm going to pass out, if it's okay with you, Mayor,
Certainly.
a flyer, and it's got a phone number and a website. And the survivors can go and register or make a phone call and get registered. Once they do that, as long as it's 4 weeks in advance, they can do it later if they need to. They'll get a free t-shirt from the American Cancer Society. They will be part of our opening march. And at the end of that, we'll present them with a survivor medallion. We have a lot of entertainment throughout the rest of the evening. We close that night about 9 o'clock with a luminary service. And if you've never been to the relay, if you don't get to come to one single thing at this year's relay, come to the luminary. It's where we honor those who are fighting cancer, and we pay tribute to those, and we memorialize those who fought the good fight, but ultimately succumbed to this big battle that we all are very well aware of. There are two things that are new this year to the relay that you can help me with. Number one, for the first time, I think ever in this country, we're going to have a survivor choir. A choir made up of nobody, no person, no individual, other than cancer survivors. So if you can help me recruit survivors for that choir, I would sincerely appreciate that. As we like to say in the South, they don't have to carry a tune in a bucket. There is no singing requirement. Simply register, and if they don't register that day, I will guarantee you this. If they show up at 5, 5:30, or 6 o'clock that day, 5:30, we will get them registered. They will become a part of the march and also a part of the choir. So if you could help me do that, that would be greatly appreciated. We're doing another thing this year for the first time ever. And this one's fun, but it's important. For the first time ever, we're having the Mayfield Dairy Ice Cream Sandwich Eating Contest at the Relay for Life. Now, I tell you that because when we came up with the idea, my goal originally was to have 10 people sign up to eat ice cream sandwiches. Sounds like an easy thing, right?
Brain freeze.
What's that?
Brain freeze.
Brain freeze. Don't worry. We've got Tanoa Healthcare. We'll help you take, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. Each of these individuals, they're going to raise $500. But here's the good news. Two things. Number one, the first person I went to, you'll know this person. The first person I went to, and before I could finish my ask, City Council Member Ken Webb, he said, I'll be in it. First person. It's a man of real character right there. I'm glad to call him my friend. Here's the other thing. We didn't get 10 contestants, but don't be sad about that. As of today, we have 16.
Wow.
We have 16 contestants, and I'm pretty greedy when it comes to raising money to fight cancer. I'm going to have 20 by the day of the relay. So if you can help me, if you got anybody you want to get up there, all they have to do is raise $500. We'll put them on stage. It'll be a lot of fun. Scotty Mayfield's coming down. Mayfield's donating all the ice cream. Hope you can be a part this year. Last two things I'll mention. If you can't do anything at all for the relay this year, do two things for them. You can't do anything else, do two things for them. Encourage survivors. Pat them on the shoulder, give them words of encouragement, and pray for them. The next thing, the last thing. Those people that care for them. Their family, their friends, the doctors, the nurses, the technicians. Pray for them, pat them on the shoulder, look them in the eye and say, thank you for doing what you do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ballou?
I'd like to sponsor somebody as
You
a
would?
eating contest, yeah. Mayor Brooks.
All
Wow.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I believe that would be unanimous,
Aye.
including those good people in the audience.
I'll sponsor Tom Cassidy.
Oh,
I hate to do it again, but is there a second?
second.
I love this friendship, y'all. All those in favor, come on now, come on.
Aye.
All right, I'm up to 18. This is more tables, boys and girls. I'm all right with it, though. I'll make sure I get the
That's
paperwork.
funny,
to you.
Tom.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. It's good to see you.
Flyers.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
And Councilman Webb and Councilman Cassada and Mr. Berry, thank you for your participation and sponsorships. Looks like I'll be breaking my diet on April 29th. I'm in it to win it.
Just so you'll know, I've been practicing.
Oh, well, okay. You've got one.
And also, the sandwiches gotten smaller.
Are they
too,
the
so-
small sandwiches or the full
I don't
size?
know, but the full size has gotten smaller, so
Okay.
it's like everything else.
Okay. Scotty Mayfield, here we come. The only other public comment I have, I know Mr. Berry is here for other announcements with Formulated, but today is Doug Berry's birthday, and I just want us to wish you from the entire city of Cleveland. Doug, you're the one that gave us a gift with Formulated Solutions, but we want to say happy birthday to you, sir, and thanks for your work. That concludes presentations and public comments, unless there's anyone else who would like to seek recognition. All right. It takes us to item number 2, which is the city manager report. Mr. Fivas, you're recognized.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. We have a little budget planning session today to go through. Just mostly want to hear if you have any, at the end, any priorities for the staff to consider as they walk through our budget. Starting out, let's get into let's get into the budget process and talk about timeline. Today is the budget planning meeting. You guys have already done a lot of work on this. In December, we met for several hours and went over a lot of project priorities and had a lot of other discussions. May 3rd is when we'll distribute the budget. May 8th will be the council's first reading. May 22nd will be the council's final reading, and that's always subject to the council changing the plan. Want to go through and just, it's always good to take a moment and look back what the council has accomplished over the last 7 years. We've calculated we invested about $50 million directly into infrastructure, and that's state and federal money as well. 7 miles of new sidewalk. By the end of this fiscal year, we'll have our entire park system at that, what we had in 2015 or 16, is that most of that, or all of that will be rehab. We've made economic climate change in the downtown. We've added 2 miles of new greenway, 3 new parks. We have a fire department ISO system with ISO rating of 2. We've increased the budget for the fire department from 11 million, or from 8.1 to 11.6 million. Police department, CLIA accreditation, we've gotten a couple of them in that time. And we've also been able to put more resources into the departments as well. Not to mention the construction of a new $15 million elementary school. And we've had a lot of success in a lot of our transitional housing in areas that needed some help from a housing standpoint. We've, working with different partners, invested and really eliminated some light properties and added some new properties. Just go look in a couple of our neighborhoods, College Hill, Blythe Oakfield. Just driving around this weekend, I saw 3 houses I didn't even know about being built over there. So it's a fantastic rejuvenation over there. And obviously, what we'll talk about a couple meetings ago, and what we'll talk about today is our huge success in industrial recruitment. And those are all the things that are in the past. It's always good to think about and rekindle those memories of all those things that we've accomplished. Overall, the strengths, we're in a strong financial position. We've moved our variable debt from 4% to 65%, which we're every day thankful that the council made those decisions with this environment of rate increases. It's probably been a significant change. You know, and from, you know, as we talked about, the different department budgets have also increased during that time. Weaknesses, you can go through and you look at where we are, and it's also a strength and a weakness. But Cleveland, if you combine the county and the city's taxes, is 3.15, whereas other communities, Colleyville, Tullahoma, Dyersburg, Oak Ridge, Maryville, Bristol, Kingsport, and Johnson City, they average 4.47, so they're about $1.30 higher than us. I think that the value that we deliver for our residents is fantastic per dollar that's invested. Budget and financing and planning. As I already said, our budget is strong and it's balanced for this current year that we're in right now. And we don't have many structural issues in the current budget year. Next year, there's some unforeseen things that are out there that we're having to work through yet. Right now, the departments have spent most of the time looking at the budget and giving us their suggestions. And I think that we'll begin in earnest. A lot of the process actually starting this week.
Joe, can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
And John, I don't know exactly, and Ken, I don't know accounting laws for municipalities. Are there lines that monies can be saved from one year and use the next? So if we had a fund balance in 15, 20 lines in this year's budget, can we roll that into next year's budget, or does that have to go into a specific fund balance for something else?
You can always reserve money. Like, when we did the tax increase, you guys set aside $600,000 a year for Whirlpool and downtown initiative, so that's kind of reserved only for that. The capital accounts roll over every year because those are ongoing projects. The general fund falls to the bottom line, so it goes to fund balance. But there's not anything in law that says that next year you can appropriate to use some fund balance if you so choose to do so.
Okay, yeah, and the reason I asked that, I have lines that I can do that with at Lee, but I have lines that I can't. Like O2 I can, O1 lines I can't, you know, so it's very clear to me, but I don't know exactly how cities.
What we have done in times when maybe departments were purchasing something out of their operating budgets, but it wasn't gonna be here on time, we'll amend that budget down and transfer it to the CIP so they have it to use the next year when the product comes in.
But don't we have some federal money that is a timetable on
Sure.
spending?
Sure, all the
Absolutely.
monies,
Yeah.
gotta be committed by 2024 and spent by December
Right.
31,
Yeah.
2026.
So the reason I'm asking this is if we've got these unforeseen concerning budget-related items, I was just wondering, sometimes you have to spend something within a certain amount of window, like maybe federal monies, or I was thinking about our operating budget in the year, like are certain lines have to be zeroed out or rolled into only fund balance that's in that pot or bucket. That's,
Every budget, we have unforeseen things that are coming up, and I think we have a pretty good plan on how to address some things. If we come to you and say, we need your help, we'll certainly give you a range of options on how to plug holes and do that. I just think that it's, and I'll probably go through particular, here's some of the stresses that we see, and then we need to work collectively on trying to plug those holes, and that's really what our budget process is. So when I say unforeseen, I don't mean there's an emergency that we need to do that until we say there's an emergency. So.
well, I was just going to tell you, I'm only speaking to Joe, I'm not speaking to anybody else. I'm very comfortable with our fund balance for those kinds of issues, because we have gotten it to 25% in so many areas, so,
We have solid waste bids, we're still calculating a number that could increase the budget up to $900,000. Always, it's kind of a standard number, you have a lot of your big box stores that are always appealing their tax rates. This also includes like the hospital and, that they are always, and there's some industrial users that are looking at that. New debt payments, that will probably hit our budget, harder this year coming up. The comptroller tax ratio, talked to the county and, they had a in-service with the assessor's office on Friday. And the county with this, comptroller's tax ratio is about $1 million for the county, and they've indicated it's about half that for the city, maybe a little bit less than half. So that's something that we're watching, and if you had to explain exactly what's going on, it's very, if you're not in the assessment world, it's very complex. Essentially, when they last did the tax ratio, which is 3 or 4 years ago, the county saw a number about 87, which was a pretty low number, and you're trying to balance out tax ratios. This year, what they said, it's in the 70s, so it's even that much worse. So it's something that we're keeping an eye on for our overall revenues. Essentially, it takes away a lot of the growth that you have in your, in some of your property tax revenues. Employee raises and benefits, we're obviously still working through some of that, and just materials, energy, a lot of different items come, that are cost more than they did last year, about $500,000. We'll have some, property tax growth and looking at about $1 million. So we have about a $3 million, hole, but that's probably a little bit larger than typical, but it's usually, don't have a bunch of anxiety over that right now. We just have to work through it and put numbers together.
Can you go back, can you tell me the new debt payments?
Yeah, it's about 800,000,
Yep.
about right.
Not dollar figure. For what issuances, for what capital
For the
projects?
$20 million that you did a year ago.
On? Have we pulled any of that down?
Yeah, a lot of these projects that we've got.
Okay. So it
Yeah,
started,
You guys allocated it to all the projects and the transportation projects and other projects.
when was our first payment on that issuance? In last year's budget?
Yeah,
Okay.
paid interest on it last year.
Yeah.
Just interest, and now we're doing principal and interest?
Yeah, we got interest this year, next year.
Well, you just pay principal as we use it. You just-
It's scheduled, but the first 3 years were interest only.
Yeah, Joe, all the increases that you've got listed, that's reoccurring year after year? I mean, like solid waste, you're talking about entering into a 5-year contract, so that's 900 increase per year for 5 years?
Some of that would be more, some of that is if Tommy needs to buy some additional trucks and more staff to cover more of the things, so that might be a little bit less than that as far as just the actual solid waste pickup. Any more questions on that? We're working on a budget proposal, and we think we have strategies on how to handle many of these issues as we move forward. Solid waste program, getting into Councilman May's question. Solid waste pickup for what constitutes our solid waste program? It's our residential pickup for residential. It's our solid waste pickup for commercial. We have a franchise agreement that picks up commercial within the city. We have the bulk waste pickup, that's your mattresses and your refrigerators and your just larger items that go out at the front step. Then you also have your, included in that is your appliance and mattress picks up, and then your yard waste. And so in that is your solid waste program.
What is the transfer station on that waste? $35 per ton, what is that transfer? So we take it somewhere and then they take it off somewhere?
We have a transfer station in the city,
Okay.
supplied by Waste Connections.
Okay.
We take all of the solid waste that we collect, or bulk items that we collect, and we drop things off there. Sometimes, it's just random things, but we take it to a designated area, and then Waste Connections hauls that to the landfill from that transfer station. Is that correct, Tommy?
It's everything you pick up out of yards, I guess, excess
All
mattresses.
of the brush goes to Mouse Creek or Hill Street.
Yeah. We
We
don't put brush.
Okay, don't put brush in there, okay. Have we done anything, we talked about, as far as trash pickup. Tommy, have we done anything else, or Joe, we done anything else as far as how we calculate, or what we can pick up, or, for residents versus commercial use, or developers or contractors that put stuff outside the road when they're redoing a house?
Yeah, and that will be part of my recommendations on bringing some, what I would say is what I think you're asking is, ideas on how to reduce some of that illegal
Okay.
waste. So
Can I
that-
show a picture I've got on 16th in Ocoee? Can I show that real quick, Jim?
Yeah.
What's out there? I just had him just put a picture up, and I came by this morning, Tommy, I think we picked some of it up already. This is the picture right here. I came through this morning, rented this house, and they had everything except for the toilets and the, floor and everything was out there, and they had half of it picked up, and I guess.
That's on what, South Ocoee?
Yeah, South Ocoee on 16th, yeah, they just dumped everything out there, floor and everything. This is,
Did it come out of that house?
yes, it came out of the house, and that's a cost, we're talking about a cost increase for our residents. If we could some way recoup some of the costs on this, maybe we can, help the residents on their costs, you know what I'm saying? Share that cost back by having some of this stuff looked at and redone, Joe. I'm hoping that we can do something to relieve some of that cost we're talking about passing on to them.
Yeah, we don't know probably the details of this. With that amount of waste, it very well could have been a landlord eviction, as we talked about.
No, this is a remodeling, it's empty inside. This is flooring, ductwork. Tommy, did y'all pick up some of that today? I think half,
Shouldn't have been picked up today, it's not that one, so it shouldn't have been picked up.
okay, well, half of it was gone, I came back through there, so.
If it's contractor material from a contractor, I think our ordinance already says not to pick it up.
Yes, sir, that's what it says.
Okay. Okay.
Joe, getting back to the number of 900,000, just, roughly, the increase in the residential 500,000. So that 400 is what we pick up,
Probably
And-
700. 600.
Okay, I just kinda went through it, 600. So the additional is what? Tommy picks up and he hauls transfer station and commercial.
And the increases in our transfer station and the increases in our commercial solid waste.
Commercial.
It's a lot of waste.
So, the city has a solid waste collection agreement with Waste Connections. They are here today if you have any questions for the provider.
I had a question about that picture. Is that y'all's truck? What's the green one? About, canister?
Based off of where they said this could be either recycle or yard waste,
And y'all picked that up on the same truck?
not at the same time, no,
Okay.
but in the same truck.
In the same truck?
Same type of drug.
Same type of truck, okay. Thanks.
So we have
But we don't have recycling in our contract.
Solid waste for residential
We'll
homes
have
and
what?
commercial
Recycling.
businesses.
Yeah, we
The
don't.
agreement terms are from January
But clearly they
first,
can do it.
2019 to December 31st, 2023. And that agreement automatically renews for another 5-year term unless notice is given by the city or Waste Connections to terminate the agreement. This agreement also has a provision in it that allows Waste Connections to petition the city at any time an additional rate or price adjustments on the basis of unusual change or cost of operations. Waste Connections has sent the city a petition to the city council to consider rate increases, and that's in your packet. And this kind of boils it down to what those rate increases are. And these are numbers that with inflation, a lot of the labor demands, and a lot of different issues that they can speak to, and what they're seeing across their business, and we've looked into that, and we've concurred that something has happened in their business in the last several years. And they're petitioning for this increase, and that's the thing that we're gonna be talking about today, and Tommy and I, who can come and answer any of your questions as well, have looked at this and had a number of conversations. Part of this, request is for them to change the mode of service, which has traditionally always been having not a truck like this, but it would be a more traditional truck with 2 people driving it, less automation, and they would go to something like this. And the solid waste agreement, and so the solid waste additionally, with the city council approval, that we would modify the waste pickup, as I already said. They would give us a 96-gallon container for every household in the city. They've said that they would brand it in some way with the city of Cleveland. And they would be responsible for the inquiries of rolling this out. It's quite the process. I believe that they have recently done this in Oak Ridge. I think Knoxville did it. And a couple other smaller communities that they've done this transition where they basically drop off cans and then they communicate and they come and they start this new mode of how to start the collection.
Joe,
So, yeah.
it says that they may at any time come before us and petition to increase in an adjustment. Is that tied to something, or can any time they feel like they need an increase, they come before us for an increase?
The way it's written is any time they can come and ask you for an increase, but you don't necessarily have to.
What happens if we don't approve it?
In this case, I mean, the agreement says that's what they can come and ask you. If you don't approve it, then my guess is that, in this case, my guess is they would probably give notice and we would bid out our services, starting in, we would probably start a bid immediately and have a new bid, that would start on January 1st, 2024.
Usually these contracts are tied to something that, I'm thinking of inflation. Inflation is not what's used. I can't think of what is normally used.
There's a CPI index
Right.
that's tied to, I think, gasoline, and stuff like that. So those are your normal increases. I think these are extraordinary changes that have happened in a marketplace, and that's why the contract says that the council has the ability to say no. You don't have to grant it. The CPI index automatically occurs. This is something that the council has the ability to say yes or no.
I agree with you. It's a great question. That's one question I had, but can you give us any kind of, I'm sure you got it with other communities too, or what other things that may trigger this and you come forward? I mean, in the past, I'm sure gasoline's one. Labor's another, because you're talking about doing automation where you're taking labor out of it. Is that correct? Because it's hard to get labor now.
Right.
So is there anything else that may trigger, that in your past, working with other municipalities, that may?
I'll be glad to, we chose to finish, I'll be glad to address all your questions.
Okay.
Turns it over to me.
Okay. All right. Good enough.
So, so if approved, the city council, city staff, well, I'm sorry. So, basically, if the council approved this, as Councilman May was saying, and then what next? And then everything would, if you approve it, the costs go up, we start a new automated service, and we don't bid it for another 5 years. If you don't approve this, my guess is, I think they say it in their letter, is that they probably would ask to let the market determine what it is coming up for the next year. One question that we've always had, we've had several inquiries about subscription-based recycling programs. We think that there are some people out there that could get into that business. I think a couple of years ago, we had someone came and did a presentation on that. We would put it together an RFP and solicit bids to provide a subscription-based recycling service. Staff is also developing options to create a utility-like system to budget and pass along these costs for our waste services. And then result in increase by $700,000. So when would this rollout occur? Occur around June 2023. How would the new automatic services communicate to residents? Waste Connections has said that they'd be responsible for all communications to residents on this transition. They do social media, newspapers, radio. They would take a huge effort. Who will address any concerns from the residents? Waste Connections has said they're responsible to address the constituents. What if someone can't take their new trash can to their front drive? We've heard this a lot in considering this change. They've agreed to do a backdoor service. If someone had an application and then it was deemed that they had some level of a disability or difficult to move the can out, is that they've said that their drivers could get out of the truck, go to the side yard, grab the can, take it, empty the truck, and take it back, which I think will help a lot of those people that have disabilities or different.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've been concerned about. And also, I've had people that had talked about age being one of them. Older person, large can, they're afraid they can't handle the can. So, and I guess Doug will be up here in a minute and answer all that. Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be done in 2 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
But that was the big question for Tommy and I and staff when we met with them, and they've indicated that they would be more than willing to do that backdoor service with anyone that does that. What if someone needs an extra trash can? Waste Connections said that they'll supply a second can for $10 a month. And here's what our recommendations are, and obviously we have a longer conversation. City staff's recommending not to give notice to terminate an agreement, to give approval of the contractor petition, and request staff develop an RFP for a subscription-based recycling service, and city staff would develop a utility-like system for budget presentations, and city staff would develop ideas to reduce the illegal waste going into our city cost structure. And that's to Mr. Cassidy's concern, is to make sure that the waste that we're picking up is legitimate. Now, at this time, Mr. Mayor, if you want.
Certainly.
Can I ask a city staff question first?
Yeah. Need Tommy?
Just you, why did we choose to put together an RFP for recycling rather than to bundle recycling as an option in renegotiating with Waste Connections?
They gave us an estimated cost, and it's in the letter, and I apologize for not pointing that out. It was $9.50. That because we already have an agreement with them, you would have to bid it out, the whole thing anyway. If you were gonna bundle them, you would have to bid it all out together. And they've given kind of an estimated cost if you wanted to do something separate. If you wanted to do if you wanted to do a bid for a system that was citywide, that picked up recycling from anyone and everyone, they gave you an estimated cost for what that was. But they did, I don't believe you do subscription-based recycling, and they didn't do subscription-based recycling, and that's why if we want to figure out if someone at their home wants that, but you don't want all the taxpayers to pay that, we thought that having a standalone service next to that, and looking at options for that would be helpful.
The standalone service, is that something like just a location you can take your recycled material to and put like the county has right now over there by the industrial park?
No.
Would they entertain something like that, as to one or two sites where people can bring it?
The two modes of recycling, the three modes of recycling. One is that you build it in, that everyone in your community pays a little bit, and everyone would get recycling service. And that's what they do, and you guys have that in other markets. The other one is a subscription based, that if someone on Crabapple Street, if they wanted that, they could contract or do that, and we would have an agreement with someone to go just pick up the ones they have subscription with. And the third one are drop-off centers, which the county has 2 drop-off centers right now in the city.
Okay. So we already got that, people already can use that.
We have that, and I don't know if people think it's convenient or not.
So if I'm
Is that on Perilous Road?
reading Waste Connections letter properly.
And there's one at Urban.
Every other week, recycling is the same cost. It would be $9.52 to $9.48. So are you saying that, help me out, if we bundled recycling with Waste Connections, it's double the $9.50 rate?
That's indicated in my price, yes.
Okay.
And they put that together and they can answer what that was. We did ask them to send us information to justify that, so we didn't take it there, and they gave all the numbers on what the calculation would be, and they can address that.
Hey, Joe, let's back up to one issue, and I just want to be sure I understand this. The the contract now says that if they find themselves at a disadvantage because of increased cost, they can request an increase. And hypothetically, if we approved everything you had up there today, is there any safeguard in that agreement that keeps this from happening again in 12 months or 18 months, or could we be sitting here having this discussion again?
You guys can still say no.
But we,
Once
Yeah.
once you get past the notice deadline, they're locked in for 5 years. And they can bring a petition, but you don't have to approve it.
but in all likelihood, then we'd be back to ground zero.
No,
As
they
far
would
as
be,
service.
they'd be required to fulfill the service for 5 years,
For 5 years.
till December 31st, 2028.
At the rate we agreed to.
Unless the council grants a change.
But if they come in and change, if they come and wanna raise prices, we say no, but they can just say, okay, we're gonna give you notice that we're going out of contract.
No.
Okay, all right,
No.
that's,
That right
clears.
now is if,
That's what I understood him saying.
yeah. I just wanna make sure it's clear, the public's
Yeah.
clear about what we're getting into.
the contract goes from now until December 31st of 2023. They have to provide notice before July 1st, 6 months' notice. Either we can, either we give notice or they give notice. If we give notice to terminate, then we have to bid it and find someone to do that.
I don't think we'll get
If you get past that point, then my interpretation of the agreement would be, is that they're locked in at the prices you agree to until December 31st, 2028, unless you agree that there's a change. Now, when we add new houses, that goes up. When, there's a cost escalator for gasoline and kind of a CPI index for some of those, so it's going up a little bit, but not large amounts.
What controls that little bit that you referred to?
Yeah.
Is it an index or something?
It's in CPI
Yeah,
index.
the
Yeah.
CPI index.
Well, if the CPI index goes down, do we get a break on it? That was one of my questions, because
Yeah.
I deal with paper all the time. It goes up and down, so there's a fluctuation. If it goes up, it goes down, do we get the benefit of that too?
Yeah. You wanna just bring them up and ask questions?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Jay.
Watch your step.
Lumber prices are same way, they go up and down index.
Yeah.
I mean, so that fluctuates.
Well, it's so good to see a bunch of my friends around here again. Last Friday, a week ago, March the 3rd, was my 50th year in the garbage business. And it's been a pleasure to serve the city of Cleveland for a big hunk of those. I've got friends sitting here on the board, they might not want to admit they're my friends, but I've had a good relationship with several of you all over the years. What brought about all the items that I put in the letter to Joe, and you, I'm sure you all got copies of, were things that addressed the pandemic. It had impacted the garbage industry huge. I'll just give you some general backgrounds on them. The future in garbage is going to the automated system, the ASL, automatic side loaders. We've done it in the city of Knoxville with over 60,000 homes. We've done it in Oak Ridge. We've done it in Clinton. We've done it in Jefferson City. We've done it in Harriman. And every contract that comes up, we've been doing it. Now, right now, we've been honoring your contract for the last 2.5 years or so and losing money every time we pick the trash up. Because we're an honest company and we do, as you were addressing, by the contract, by the CPI. But we ran out of rope and we had to petition. I think it's GS 32 or one part of the contract that says that we can petition. We haven't petitioned earlier. It was getting toward the budget time for you all, and we had to do this early so you'd know whether to bid or stay with us. I can tell you right now, the $9.48 garbage price for collection anybody that's gone out to bid has been, the minimum I've seen is $12.76, and the most I've seen is $17.75, I think it was.
What's the least you've seen?
The $12.76.
12, yeah.
I had not, and that was for a small entity. The problem is so the price we've given you is a rock bottom price that we can offer you. You got good service, you've had good service. If they wouldn't, I'd give them a spanking. We've got some good people in here. Dakota Kusix is a new district manager down here, and I have all the faith in the world in him. It's just a good team. And if something ever goes wrong, if any one of you ever call me, I'll fix it. I think you can say that. The question, I'll take your questions, but I'll give you some background on how this works. And we've done it the same way for all these cities. We deliver a cart, it takes about 2.5 weeks to get the carts delivered. And we'll have Tommy will give us a place where we can assemble the carts down here. There'll be several tractor trailer loads of carts, and they're stacked, and then they're put together with the wheels and the lids on that at the side. Very Pacific would be our cart supplier, and we've had a great relationship with them, and they do a good job on the deliveries. We get a list from Tommy, and then we take that list and we deliver to it. Each cart will have the city's logo on the top, then our logo, and then our phone number. And the reason it's not the city's phone number is that way if there's a problem, they'll know to call us instead of wearing it out the Public Works Department. So that's good deal. In the package, we put in there how they set the carts, how many feet apart, that the carts set from something else, because the automated goes up and over the top instead of like the rear loader that you're used to now. It works. It's a great system. We cannot get we constantly have to get temporary employees to hang on the back of the truck to pick the trash up. We can't get them anymore. The future of garbage is automated. This is not just here. This is going on all across the country, that it's automated garbage. We got one man, we got, spare trucks that cover them, we got spare employees that know the routes, but they're drivers. They're not helpers, and we can't get those anymore. It's a dinosaur, the way we're doing it right now. So, based on that, I'll give you some information. With our carts, we will do all the repairs. If the lid's tore off, we'll replace it. If the wheels tore off, we'll replace it. If a resident burns it down with hot ashes, we ask for a $75 cost, because that happens. And that would be billed directly to the resident, not to the people. We offer a second, third, or fourth cart. That's at $10 a month. And that includes the cart. We bill them quarterly in advance, and it's worked out at all the other cities. Some people want to try 2 carts and then they stop. Well, we're going to bring them back in if they stop. If they need 3 carts, we're going to dump them. But the city should be only responsible for 1 cart for 1 person, and its contents a cart, and they just have to readjust. This is all information that's put in the packet. They will know as much as what I'm talking about. There's like 4 or 5 pages in the package, and it tells them who, what, when, where, why, and how. I think if we start the service on June 1, we'll be picking it up the first week of June, and then the second week of June, the customer-owned cans can be put at the curb, whether they got trash in them or not, and we'll dispose of them. If someone wants to keep their cans, that's their right. But if they put them out at the curb, they will not be picked up. it's due to the automated cart. Now, I think a question came up a minute ago, but we are already right now taking care of the handicaps. Anybody that's handicapped, and they call in, they got a justifiable reason, we go there and we
Doug, what do they have to do to justify that they are handicapped?
well, they just need to call in and, we'll have Dakota will have somebody go out there and visit them, right? And we'll verify it, it'll be on our cost to go out there and verify.
Okay,
it.
but I mean, it could be an older adult
Yes, well,
that just,
Hey, some of us are almost 75.
That can
Give them a
walk.
break now. I don't
they do well walking, but they're
Right.
weak and,
Right.
and they don't have
No,
the strength.
It doesn't have to be, you're in a wheelchair, we're doing you right now, you just don't know it, Jay, honestly. We're picking them up, and somebody else has a problem. Let me tell you what, I'd rather take,
Doug, they don't need to have a disability or handicap, they can just have a difficult walking because
right,
of.
well, that's a handicap to me.
Okay,
Or like a
that's,
temporary-
that's what I'm trying to,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's say I
Yeah.
got a foot tore off, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't walk good.
yeah,
And someday, and I had to go in and get surgery, and it's a short-term disability. You know, he's on crutches.
Yeah.
Well, they call our office, we'll go in, go out there and see him, and it's not that many, really. It's
No.
a small percentage. And we will,
yeah. But the point I'm trying to make, to get handicap tags,
off.
you have to, I guess, have a doctor's,
some
slip, yeah.
instances, yes.
But
but you
this
don't
is a
have-
little different from having handicap tags,
Right,
yeah,
right.
okay.
You don't have to have the tag. It can be short-term or long-term.
And you won't, I just wanna, you won't need to have a doctor's note,
No.
but it's just kind of an eye test.
Right.
on-
Yeah.
on-
I
Okay.
mean, if somebody's, you know, either temporary or permanent, we'll visit them, see that it's that way, and there's nobody living there that couldn't take the trash out. Let's say Mama Maybell can't get the trash out, but she's got a nephew living there with him. He can take the trash out. I'll address something else that's better for the residents than the cans right now. You got 3 30-gallon garbage cans. You gotta make 3 trips to carry them up and down. That cart, all you gotta do, put your foot on one wheel, lean it back, and it rolls. I can roll it out with fused neck, fused shoulders, fused foot. So if I can get it out, at my age, other people can easily get them out. They're a lot easier to get in and out. The system's better. You don't have to tell me about change. Man comes home, he's had a hard day at work and his garbage wasn't right. That's about one of the few things we gripe about in this world. But we take care of it, and honestly, the cart is not hard to roll out. I can roll it out. It's easier than dragging 3 or 4 garbage cans out. You had another question about that house over here, and I'm addressing that. That's for profit if it's a contractor,
You wanna
and
ask?
people like that shouldn't be put on Tommy. It should be, and this is my opinion, I'm not trying to tell you anybody what to do, but for-profit entities should have to have a roll-off container. Lord, there's several people that have containers, but they need to, at that volume, city of Knoxville, we limit them to 5, and several other cities, we limit them to 5 bulky items.
What do you consider bulky?
Mattresses, box springs.
Well, mattresses and box springs now at a county dump now has gone from like $5 up to $20. I mean, it's gone way up through the roof to take it over there for people, is my understanding.
Well, I'm talking about,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm just giving an example as far as
Yeah.
mattresses, how the price has gone up just to dispose of.
well, believe me, tell me something that hadn't gone up. Go get a hamburger now at $15.
It's smaller.
It's smaller, even ice creams are smaller.
Councilman Webb had a question.
Is everything that goes into that can required to be in a bag?
We ask for it to be bagged because it's dumped over the top. If it's not, and it's worked in all the other cities. If you bag it, you don't have a problem of any wind blowage, and there's a reason for it.
But if someone has a loose milk carton, you're not gonna stop and
No,
not pick it up.
no, I'm just saying it's preferred for it to be bagged.
Preferred, okay.
and if somebody puts in that, what do you call the styrofoam deals, and it blows all over their yard, that's their fault, because they should have known to put it in there, we're not gonna pick that up. And I think that you wouldn't want to have to do that either, Ken, would you?
No.
I just,
See, go ahead.
go ahead, Ken.
The $32 rate for the city at the transfer station, what is that rate now? $21.50.
The trucking contract that we have with MBI has gone through the roof because it's all fuel and truck, big, 55, 60 foot trailers. And then the landfilling cost has gone up. There's nothing in the garbage business that hadn't gone through the roof. Right now, there's 15,000 Kenworth trucks sitting at Kenworth because they can't get a wiring harness. 1,500 Kenworth sitting there, they can't get wiring harnesses. We can't get supplies. I mean, the industry's just gone crazy.
Yeah. I've been corrected, it's $50 a mattress to go to the county dump.
That's what I do.
It's $50. Somebody just corrected, somebody's watching online corrected me. So,
I have a question, sir. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You were talking about them putting it in the bag.
That's
and
the one I gave
other
from my
stuff
mattress.
rolling out. When you delivering the truck, you switch over to this automation.
other mattress.
Is there going to be, is your company going to give guidelines to the customers about how things should be packed? Because I know a lot of times they
In
don't.
that 4 or 5 pages, it's who, what, when, where, why, and how. It's all addressed. You set your cart at the curb, which way the handle that you hold it, push it with, that goes at the curb. Isn't that right?
And the customer's gonna get that.
And because it's a colored package. I mean, it's got our logo on it and the city's logo on it. And all of this will be run through Joe and Tommy so they can see. But it's the same packages we're using everywhere else and,
And the council would be able to see that before it goes out.
oh yeah, I'll send it to you and you can send it, but the packages, and if you wanted any changes, we'll be more than willing to listen to what you want us to change, but by and large, after doing this about 8 or 10 times, it's worked.
So when they get this 96 gallon,
95,
95 gallon garbage can, they're gonna get instructions with it.
that's correct. Oh yes, it's in a Ziploc packet that it's not gonna get wet, and it's attached to the handles of the cart. And it tells them that second week, we'll dispose of them, otherwise you can take them yourself to the transfer station. But if you put them out, it's contents of cart, and that's the only thing we're gonna put up. And you're gonna have a few that says, I'm gonna set them out there, and then they'll learn.
Okay.
Now, is that the only information they're gonna get, or are you going to, before we go over to this, is your company going to notify customers that we're going to this change?
There will be a media blitz done by us and the city where they can go online. Matter of fact, the new system, you can go online and look and go to Waste Connections, www.wasteconnections.com. I'm not the computer person. And it'll tell you what your pickup day is once we get them in the system.
It'll be every week.
Once weekly.
So there's like a portal that if someone at 1311 Crabapple Street, they can go and look and plug their address in and know when their service is and all that, is that what it is?
There's a Waste Connect app that every resident will be able to sign up for, and you punch in your address on that app, and it'll tell you your service date. It will notify the customer the day before to make sure to let them know to put the can out that night, so we can service it the next day, and everything's gonna be through there. And if they need roll-off containers, they can schedule there through the app, as well as if we miss the pickup, or if there's an issue with the pickup, they can put it all through the app, and it goes directly to us.
Well, one reason I'm asking you questions about that
No,
is,
what I'm up
not
with.
everybody's gonna read that packet that's hanging on that.
Well,
They're just not gonna do
it's
it.
sort of like people who make F's in school. They have to go back and get re-educated.
And we've dealt with this before when people just throwing stuff loosely out.
Well, there's always
We're doing that
1% that
now.
ain't gonna
You have a
do
question?
anything, you know.
Yeah,
So I just wondered how much we're gonna address it to get it out there,
What's
to
this
let
guy's
people
name?
know, hey, this
Doug what?
change is coming, this is what
Excuse
you
me?
need
What's
to
this guy's
do.
name? Doug?
We've talked to the city
This guy?
already, we're
I don't
gonna have a
know.
press conference. I think we're in agreement on that, Joe. Try to get radio and TV and the newspaper there, like we've done in the other cities, and have a kickoff. So it's gonna be in the paper, and then try to get the paper to do a follow-up. The carts are started being delivered, you know, a PSA type deal. That'll be all coordinated between us and the city. We'll be working with city manager. Yes, sir.
Councilman Hughes had a question.
I was wondering about the transfer station.
Yes, sir.
Do we lease that, the city, or do you lease that?
We own it.
You own it,
Yes, sir.
the transfer station.
Yes, sir.
Well, from what I hear, that's pretty, Tommy, that's pretty important for you to have that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He would devastate us with that.
And you own the property,
Yes, sir. 100%.
okay?
He told you so.
Okay, good.
Hey,
Go ahead, Councilman.
yeah, the,
Go ahead.
the existing contract that we have now, when is the update on it? July of 24? January 24?
23.
January 1.
January 1 of 24.
But by contract, we are petitioning early, so you all
Okay.
know to, that you either took our deal or you'd have to bid it. And we have to do that 6 months.
So we're gonna have 6 months of this increase in next year's budget. January 1 to July?
Yeah. The way I understood things, Doug, would be, is if the council decides to go in this direction, then, the rates would reset when they roll out the carts. So you wouldn't be paying any additional until the carts are actually
On site.
on site.
Yeah, but,
All cards?
June of 23.
so you're talking about July 1, you're having everything?
No, June, right now, with your vote today, from talking to Rick, they think that they can start production and we can have the carts here and started delivering by the middle of May with a June 1 start date, or until the carts are delivered. You might have to prorate a few days if it, but basically it's gonna start June 1. We think we can get this done with, at the same time frame in Oak Ridge, and, the bigger the city, the longer it takes to put them out, but it's a similar sized city. We got it done in about 2 weeks. You in agreement with that?
I agree. Yes, sir.
What, can we not work something to start July 1, which is fiscal year, that, on the increase, so that we don't have to take that?
They're probably open to that.
I would like it to start June because of the labor problems. I mean, there's a reason for it, Dave.
Well, I know that, but, I'm thinking about our budget. Duh,
I mean,
you're thinking about your budget,
Yeah, I
so.
was thinking about
yeah.
that. He's losing.
It's a partnership, and we're just
Yeah,
trying to
I
work
know that.
together on it, I
Yeah.
know.
Do
Councilman,
this automation, and you won't have many people to spank. You say you're gonna spank if they get out of line, you know?
I still have to spank them all day.
Doug, I do have a question. I don't know if any council members thought about this. I did, thinking about this coming in. Right now, if somebody puts 2 trash cans or 3 trash cans out, you pick them up.
That's correct.
And now you're just gonna offer one,
Yeah.
and $10 for the next one. They'll have to pay $10 a month extra on that. But you can sell it for 75. Could they buy a can for 75 and still pick up 2, or you're gonna charge per can?
It's
Because larger
the
families,
city contract,
They're larger cans.
the city contract.
I've got a pretty large can now.
Well, you
It's
got,
bigger than that.
city has about, in their Title 17, I think,
30 gallon.
have around 3 32-gallon cans.
32.
Okay.
There's gonna be some parts of the city that we'll still have on rear loader that we can't pick up. It'll never go to front loader just due to small roads and the drop-offs, for the public pickup in the center city and stuff. So that will still be the same. But everywhere else they'll have cans. The second can, the city should pay, most of the cities all the cities have been in agreement with me on this. The first can is what the city pays for. If they need additional cans, we can give them additional can for $10 a month, bill quarterly in advance. And if they find out they don't need it, we'll take it, bring it back in. but the city should be just paying for that one cart, because it's equal to the three, you know,
Three
30
cans, okay, it's 95, 30 gallon now, we get.
So the $10 is not just paying for the cart, it's
45,
also
so it's
paying
two
for the
cars.
service to pick
The
that
additional
cart up.
service, right.
And that's
It's
the
not
reason
for the
it's every
cart.
month, it's not a flat $75.
No,
cost.
$75 is only if you destroy, if a resident
Right.
destroys the cart, you know, they can set it on fire. And believe me, stuff happens. I mean, have you ever seen what Hot Coals does out of a barbecue grill in the bottom of a container? That's just, best way I can describe it is stupidity, not touching the coals before you put them in, then we're gonna ask them to replace that cart. I mean, that's business.
So this can is equivalent to 2 cans, 93 cans, you're saying. But I've got a green one that's got a handle on it, you roll it out. That's a 30 gallon.
I don't know I ain't seen it, so I can't tell you.
It's a pretty
It's
high,
more than that, Tom.
it's probably more than that.
Well-
I'm just concerned that people
Yeah.
are gonna have to get another can, but right now they get picked up all their trash. That's one thing that I think I'll get back and say, look, I put 3 cans out, and I need 4, but now I gotta buy another one. Right now, I'm getting a service for that, now I'm gonna have to pay more on top. We're gonna get pushed back on that, I know I'll get pushed back
But
on
3
that.
cans mainly equal this 1 can, because it's 95.
Well-
That's exactly.
30
Well,
gallon
it
can.
really, I don't know what size cart you got. You might have a cart as big as ours.
Yeah,
But we're not gonna be picking them up under this system, because once we crush them with our truck, I don't know if your cart has got the wall strength to take it, then you're gonna say, I'm gonna replace your cart. I mean, you gotta buy my.
Well, I understand that.
And I'm not doing it. I mean, we're not gonna do
yeah.
it.
Doug, when you rolled these out in the past, what percentage of households usually get a second can?
1%,
Okay.
1.5% at the
So
most.
that's Oak Ridge and Knoxville and Harriman
It's
and
everybody.
Jefferson City,
It's every one of them,
so it's very rare.
right.
Okay.
After they,
Yeah.
after they have to make a market choice at the home.
Right, but it's not fair for the city either to have to pay for a second can for somebody. They should do the same for everybody, and this way, if you paid, if Johnny Jones got a second cart free, then somebody else would want a second cart free, and then somebody else would,
Well, you can't do that.
and you can't go there, so it's contents of cart, one cart, you want a second cart. And this works, there's very, very few.
Okay.
I mean, there's some huge houses that, you know, they got 14 kids, they might want a second cart, and they might want a third cart, but it's very rare.
Okay.
What about during the holidays, like at Christmas, when there's a lot of extra?
That's on my list to tell you. The week after Christmas, good question. The week after Christmas and New Year, the first full week after Christmas and New Year, Christmas and Thanksgiving. I'm getting old. Christmas and Thanksgiving, they can put extra bags, bags tied next to the cart, and Dakota will be picking them all up. He's the district manager here in Cleveland.
So if they set it out, Doug, in a bag, that mechanical arm can pick it up, put it in?
No, you'll get out and get them.
You're gonna have to get out and get 'em?
Little truck behind the routes
Okay.
to make sure you're taken care of, and you can take that to the bank. That will happen. That's what I've done in my other cities, and it works.
But that's just those 2 holidays, that's not on a regular basis.
Not on a regular basis.
Councilman Webb, you had a question?
You know, one thing that we deal with, and I hope we come up with a way to address it, is the debris that Tommy picks up. I know for a fact that we're picking up debris that doesn't originate in the city. And I'm thinking we probably pick up some household garbage inside the city that has come from outside the city. And everyone having the same can may help address that issue. I know of some streets that the intersection is in the city limits, the street is not. And there's an awful lot of cans at the ends of those streets some days. And they have to be coming from the areas outside the city that are on those streets.
If you, with your city seal on it, our seal on it, if there, and we addressed this about a year ago, that we did a road count survey ourselves, and I think some of Tommy's people worked with us, and we know where the edges are for sure now. And when in doubt, let us know and we'll check it out, because we're billing them directly as subscription customers for the ones outside. But if it doesn't have the city seal on it, it ain't gonna get picked up under the city contract.
This might help with that, I don't know.
Well, it's a step in the right direction, Ken.
Doug, on
Yes.
the other cities that you've gone to this automatic, Tom's talking about we're gonna get some pushback, and we know we're gonna get pushback, because from the citizens, anytime you change, you're gonna have somebody it's hard to adapt, you know. But how did they handle it?
Well, the city is informed, let's say Tommy gets a phone call, and, you know, he's informed the same way to do it as the residents. He'll go over it with them. If they call us, we'll go over it with them. If we have to go out there and see them, we'll go out there and see them if a phone call is.
David, are you asking what was the experience of other cities?
Yeah.
Well,
So tell us, like Oak Ridge is more
Okay.
similar to us. Tell us how that thing went from the residents' complaint.
well, I'm pretty honest, so I hate to have to be that way, but
Well, I know you are,
up here,
Doug.
I don't want to be arrested, you know, he's sitting over and getting me. We had about 20, 30 days of problems. I told the last people we just did was City of Harriman, he said, Dad, it's been 30 days and I haven't had any more complaints. So there's gonna be some. It's not every day, and don't panic if you get them, because that's just a part of changing anybody, especially changing their garbage, you know.
But I guess, Doug, if we get a call, or if Tommy gets a call, we can direct them to you,
Dakota.
and somebody will address their complaints. Okay.
Or if Tommy will be able to address them too, some of them might say, well, how do I put this cart, where, just like she said, well, you got literature, if you don't, we'll get you some more, or let me tell you how to put your carts, 4 foot from a mailbox, 4 foot from a truck, you know.
And that cart will tell you which direction to put to the street, won't it?
The information,
Yeah, I've got some big carts, and
information tells you.
it says, you know, I guess they're set up,
Well, if this was the cart, and I'm rolling it here,
yeah,
you take it, and this is the street out here,
yeah.
you turn it here.
You turn it,
And then the lid.
so the lid pops
flips the
open
right
and it
way,
does.
And that keeps the blowage down.
Yeah,
There's a reason for it, that cuts your blowage down, having that lid facing the truck. So,
Now you mentioned there's cameras that are monitoring the garbage.
there's six cameras on this truck. When we pull up to a house now with this new, program that we have, if we pull up to your house at 8:07 in line, it takes a picture that your cart wasn't out even. So if somebody calls in and they put it out at 9 o'clock, we were at your normal route at 8:07. We'll see you next week because you didn't have your cart out at 7 o'clock. I put mine out the night before.
yeah.
Most people do, but they have 360 degrees looking, at the whole area around the truck. Now, there will be somebody calls, you might have a few calls said, well, they went down my road and they didn't get me. This is a call you'll get. Well, give them a little while because it's a right side, left side or right side?
Right side.
Right side pickup, don't wanna tell you wrong. So he goes down this road this way, he goes around the block, he comes back, then he goes down that same road on the other side. Cause he can't have people walking back and cross, you know, snaking the container, so you pick it up one way and you'll get a few calls on that. I'm just trying to give you some ideas of what calls you get, but we'll be back. They have to run it different because of the way the truck picks it up.
Councilman Webb, you had a question?
David, I have a relative that lives in a city that just recently converted to this. And I asked them early on, well, what are you hearing about it? And there were some rumblings. And I had the opportunity to ask them again this weekend. And they said, you know, I haven't heard anything else about it. Seems to be working fine.
Yeah, and if the system works, then if people, they get accustomed to it, and, but
And people-
early on, we
And-
will
well, we will
have
hear,
complaints.
But
Yeah.
it's important that people have somebody they can talk to if they have questions or concerns about it.
But we'll be armed and we'll make sure operations is armed with the city with all this literature too, and we'll be ready to answer the question. And yes, it's 30 days. I mean, heck, you know, it is what it is. You change something, just like Ms. Marcia said, they don't read it all. Well, they're gonna get an F, not get the garbage missed, and then they'll go back to an A student once they figure it out.
I think I heard you say your phone number was on that can, is that correct?
Your personal
Local? No. No, hey, I can show you a picture. I retired March the 3rd. I signed my consulting agreement. I don't have to go to the office every day. I signed my consulting agreement, and Larry, at my going away party last Friday, they brought me a brand new garbage can and said, property of Douglas L. McGill, 50 years of great service.
Wow.
And I thought that was kind of neat to know. I mean, you know, that's sort of like getting Elvis to sign your record or something.
I don't know if it's quite that.
For me it was. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now,
Back to this, like, in Oak Ridge, they did this, and they had, I believe, now it's coming back, is they actually had backdoor service,
that was a bigger problem.
the trash person went actually to everyone's back door. And how did that, what type of complaints did you get, and what did you go to your
I hope so.
We had backdoor service in Oak Ridge, and as we told them, about 99.99% of the people in the country wouldn't do backdoor anymore, and you might as well get used to it. It was a big part of the city was already bringing it out to the curb. But we had backdoor, but it's the most inefficient way to pick up garbage except for handicapped or elderly. So they knew they was gonna have to change. The Public Works Director, God rest her soul, she passed away during the contract startup. She was from Arizona, transferred in and got the job. And she was all for the automated because they had automated out there. I will say this too, I've had, this year, just in local, I had 5 cities call me. They wanted us to take over the business because the current vendor could not pick up the garbage. I'm not gonna say who they were, but some of them were as big as 5,000, and some of them were 3,000, and they couldn't get the garbage picked up. I couldn't get the labor. Telling everybody it's not the time to do recycling. the transfer station fee, as we talked about, is $32 a ton. West Rock's processing fee in Chattanooga, where we'd have to take it to, which is a long haul, for single stream recycling. White Grove would cost up so much, it's $47.50 a ton. On the West Coast right now, it's anywhere from $150 to $300 a ton to process recycling. But even that $47.50 is more than landfilling it. So that tells you what you're up against, and recycling is every other week. You don't need it weekly with weekly trash pickup. It's just not the thing to do right now, folks.
Vice Mayor Johnson has a question?
Well, I don't really have a question, but one thing that we deal with is servers. People call us whenever, I've had so many people call me about garbage collection
Over the years, I
and
guarantee
picking
you.
up, and even the little old lady that got her garbage can at her basement door and it's downhill, and she's trying to push it uphill. I've had a lot of calls like that, and every time that I've called Robert, Tommy, somebody go immediately and pick it up. So,
Thank you.
one reason why I'm sitting here and been here so long is because of you guys and what you do to help us. Because that's, everybody up there tell you, that's one of the most, that's the reason why you're getting all these questions. Because we need your help and we need good service. Because that's what really keeps us here, doing our job. And I just want to thank you and Waste Connection for the job that you do.
Thank you. All we have is our ability to do the job and our honesty.
Yeah.
And Avery, I don't think I ever broke that promise to you one time.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Right on.
Appreciate that comment.
Right
Now I call for the vote.
Sorry, that's a 3.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to wait.
I'm just giving you a hard time. But thank you for letting me talk to you. I promise you, this price is a good price. And we got it at rock bottom that we can do it at. And we're not afraid to bid if we have to. But it'll cost you all more money if it goes out to bid. That's my closing argument statement. I told myself on the mercy of the court.
Thank you, Mr. McGill.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fibus, that returns us back to you, sir.
All right. And again, as we process, and if you have any questions between the meetings, we're happy to address any of those then. Looking at some projects, we talked about the Build Cleveland's Future Initiative. I am not going to go through every project that we have. We're more interested to hear what your questions and thoughts are. Did want to go through and here are for some of the categories. Here are 6 projects that we're looking for as being priorities for this next year. Paul Huff, Mouse Creek intersection, Paul Huff Peerless intersection, Phase 1 of Central Avenue, Phase 1 of Atkinson sidewalk, the Cleveland Gateway and sidewalk improvements, and the West Side Drive, 25th Street. West Side Drive, 25th Street, we actually have a design, and I can show you that probably in our next meeting. It's actually, I think it would be a huge, we like how that project's turned out, because it started that there was a question that several council members asked about the hole outside of the gas station and the ditch that was there. Is that, in looking at that, there's a way to restructure the road and get another lane in there if you fix this hole that's in there. So what we have a design for that will be, I think, cost effective and a nice little project, especially with some of the housing, the substantial housing that's going on along West Side Drive. So we have, well, we looked at the design and we said, that's going to look really great. I mean, it really, because a long time ago, if you recall, there was a state project included to do both sides of the street there. One side was was cut off at some point in 2014. And we did the Georgetown Road side, which was a great project, and I think it solved some issues. But now this essentially fixes the other side of the road, and we're excited about that. So from infrastructure, there's of course the huge list of stuff that I'm not gonna go over, that I'll wait that for another meeting. Here are some of the priority projects, some of the downtown projects, the City Hall, Johnston Park, downtown beautification, Inman Street streetscaping, First Street streetscaping, and Whirlpool redevelopment. Those are the ones that are, and we're working on all of these simultaneously. They're in different areas of development. Some of it's going on. We also have the state and federal project, which is the Michigan Avenue Minnis Road project is clicking along, and they're working on designs. Gott Street is just ready for an email from the state. 25th Street multi-path project is from Peerless to Key Street. Basically, we're pretty close. We're just doing right away on that, and that might be under construction or approval to start construction as early as July. Starbucks connector and FTA bus stop project. And then, of course, quality of life projects. Mosby, Candy, Civitan, Tinsley, East Circle Greenway, Soccer Complex, and Jim Sharp Park should be on there as well. So those are projects. At this point, I am going to hand it over to the mayor and the city council and talk about if there's any budget priorities in this budget that we'll have prepared in the next month or so, and if there's any questions or modifications in any projects or timing or priority, we're happy to address all those items that the council may have.
Sure. I know that there are some time constraints on the balance of this meeting time, but we will begin with Vice Mayor Johnson to our left. Any priorities that you would like to bring up, Vice Mayor?
You know, I had three of them, and Joe just addressed two of them. One was Gulf Street, the other was Central Avenue. But the other one I'd just like to hear from, you know, and that's downtown revitalization. Yeah. Anything going on?
Yes. The downtown revitalization that right now concurrently, you obviously have the new City Hall, which is, they're doing demolition inside, and they're doing a lot of other activities in there. It looks like a bomb went off, to be honest with you. Johnston Park, we think that is another front burner item to get that launched as soon as possible, and do that. So that's probably one of the next ones. Central Avenue, which could be on here, it was on the other priorities, is we have a design that we'll probably show you at the next meeting, a full design on what Central can look like, and we're ready to go on that at any time. And the Whirlpool redevelopment, I have right here. It's our urban renewal and redevelopment plan for Whirlpool. We've spent a substantial amount of time. It's not quite ready. We are going to, at the next meeting in March, launch into a new redevelopment plan for this Whirlpool area and some other properties along that. The state redevelopment plan opens up a number of different tools for redevelopment that we don't have unless we do that. So starting within 2 weeks, we're going to be headlong in looking at, reviewing, developing, approving the redevelopment plan. What happens is, once you have an approved redevelopment plan, then you give the owners the opportunity to say, well, here's the plan, actually, and it's the housing authority, here's the plan. plan that we have, we would like you to do this redevelopment plan. And then you give them some time, and then if they don't want to do that, then you have some options and where to go from there. So I would say we have spent a lot of hot air and talked a lot about the redevelopment in the Whirlpool area. Starting in 2 weeks, it's going to become very real. No decisions have been made. It's just we have to get the dinner table set and ready to go. But that's probably the most exciting thing in the downtown is starting that, and we have literally this 30-page document that's ready to go. So, and we'll talk about that at the next meeting.
All right, our next councilman at large, Councilman Webb.
I had one project that I thought you might give us an update on, if there's any news available, and that's North Ocoee and 25th. Have you heard anything recently on that?
The TDOT commissioner was here last Wednesday, and Mayor Brooks petitioned at the MPO meeting and made sure that he made it was well aware that it was a priority. They're working on that. I don't think Mr. Mayor, I don't think that, Mr. Mayor, I don't think that he flinched. I think he kind of indicated they're working on it and it's a priority.
Publicly acknowledge that it has been moved to the highest level of priority, and they're working on it right now.
So,
Much to the chagrin of the district, councilman number 5, I'm gonna start with Councilwoman McKenzie in District 1 and go in order. Councilwoman McKenzie?
Okay, I just had a couple of questions. I didn't see it on here, and I've had questions from people about it. The Greenway at Inman and Keith, is that in with the First Street situation, or, because I don't see it on here anywhere?
Greenway at Inman.
Yeah, we were gonna continue the Greenway.
Oh, yeah.
Starbucks connector.
I call it the Starbucks connector. It goes from Willow Street to Starbucks.
Okay,
It's really called Phase 6, is the technical correct name.
okay, phase 6.
Yeah. So that was, let me show you here.
Mess it up.
Projects, see, this number 4 Starbucks connector project. I believe that actually the designers are getting pretty close on the design. Robert, you in here? Giving a thumbs up.
Sorry.
That we made some progress on that, and we should be in right away. So
So we have an estimated start time on that,
next week.
next week?
No. It will likely be, it would probably be bid this fall, is what we hope.
Did this fall, okay. And the next one was, do we have a start time, approximate start time on the West Side Drive and 25th Street project?
West Side Drive.
Yeah, it's under the infrastructure and economic development.
hole is.
Number
Gas
6.
station hole.
Sure, yes.
What's that? Well, the sidewalks, we were talking about putting sidewalks down 25th Street, is that including that?
Is that included that, John?
The sidewalks are,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
that's a welcome included.
Yep.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
I didn't hear that.
Yes.
It does include it,
Yes.
okay. And do we have an approximate start time on that one?
We have not, we have, in an upcoming meeting, probably the next meeting, we'll show you a design for it. I think that that's a question for the city council. Once you have a design, we can prioritize things. I would say we need to pair that with, when the development starts on West Side Drive, is it needs to be in progress when they start doing their stuff. And that still might be 6 or 7 months, so we're kind of watching for them to go, and then we would go. But once you have a design and we have the money allocated to it, we can do it at any time you want. You might have to put something else off, but it'll be ready to go.
And then one more question I have, I didn't necessarily see it in here, we talked about sidewalks on the South Loop Highway.
Yeah, that is part of the program that you accomplished. A lot of this year's work on that will be just getting the right-of-way, because the right-of-way on that, you know, you have those poles, you have the curb, and then you're a foot off, you have the poles. That's where the right-of-way is. Our right-of-way to get that will be complex. I believe we have a design of that.
Is that something I could see, to design for that?
Yes, of course. I will tell you that we are further ahead in our engineering design, and I think Jonathan and Brian Beck deserve. We probably have 5 or 6 projects that are actually ready to go on these infrastructure ones, and so we're trying to think smarter and get some of the stuff designed so that when we get to them, we don't have to wait around for the design. So I think they've been working hard on that, so yes, we have that for design. As far as construction, it's gonna take some time going to each of those owners, and there's some parking lot areas there. Some people are gonna really like the idea, some people are gonna have a lot of questions. So, but we're happy to share that.
Thank you.
Councilman Estes.
Yeah, so Joe, I appreciate, I know you're asking this now, but I mean, you've always kept me informed all along the way. So it's like, no, this is a surprise, I appreciate that. So, Jonathan, we've been waiting for months on that email. Is there any way we could reach out and say, maybe you've got our address wrong or something, you know?
Yeah, I'll just put it up. Robert, have you heard, what's the latest on
Gaunt Street.
Gaunt Street?
The analysis from the right-of-way department, we're just waiting on a letter from them. We've been in communication for the past 10 days. It's at their mercy, but we're certainly pushing as hard as we can.
Secondly, Mosby's going great. I know it's part of our priorities, but man, and to my colleagues, if you haven't swung by and looked at what's coming, it's radically changing it for the better, and I really appreciate that being a priority. I was glad to see the soccer complex make the list. And then the fourth thing I want to spend a little bit of time on, and my numbers may be off, Doug, I'll defer to you on some of this. I'm assuming 13,000 households. Recycling would cost us 1.5 million, 1.39 to 1.5 million for that. The number that Waste Connections gave us of $10 a month per household is cheaper than anywhere else that I look up. You know, if you're doing both waste and recycling, it's normally $30 a household a month or $360 a month, unless the city like Chattanooga goes in on themselves. Doug, so I appreciate that. I appreciate your offer. You know, the 1052 or 1048, whatever it was, 952, 948, I can't remember. That it's very reasonable in light of what's offered other places. But I want to say, I don't want you to leave here saying, hey, it's not the time to recycle. It's always the right time to do what's right. And I don't know if the values of this community are such that recycling is right. I get more requests for this when you talk about budget priorities. I get this more than anything. I'd like to see us recycle. Joe, I'm just throwing you out, and I'm saying publicly to my colleagues what I get from my constituents. I see it as a moral issue. Yes, it's an economic issue, but it's not a moral issue. And it's not about us. It's about our kids and our grandkids. It's about this community in the future. It's about stewardship. So I don't want that lost on, it's not the right time. So.
I wasn't against it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's cost prohibitive right now, and we have no control over the processing fees.
But, and to, the dollar amount that you gave us is very reasonable, an excellent number compared to other municipalities, roughly our size or even larger, that don't have their own stream in place. So kudos to Waste Connections on that. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Casta.
Yeah, just a little bit, Doug, real quick. You do offer You do offer recycling for individual if they wanna do it in the house. If I wanted recycling, I could call you and you would do recycling. You won't do that. Okay, I just wanna make sure.
Let me explain why.
Okay, I was just making sure.
I think I make it more sensible to, if you have individual subscription,
Mhm.
it would go through the roof, because we have to drive on every road in the
Right,
city.
right.
And economics of scale just goes out the window.
Yeah.
You either do it all, or you don't do any of it.
Okay, I understand, because there are some people, private industries just tried to do that before and it very failed because okay, that's it. Joe, on Axon Drive, you said sidewalk program, that turnabout for Lee and going down there, is that just a sidewalk program, or are we gonna widen that road out and fix it? Because if I had to say, it's probably the worst road in Cleveland, Tennessee, if you ride down it. There's
Yeah.
no shoulder on it, I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah, there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, we were waiting that they were gonna do the skywalk across there. We were waiting for them to get all their heavy steel and do that, then we were gonna pave when they got that, and then they think they backed off on that. So the Atkinson sidewalk, in fact, I talked to Dr. Stone this morning. And there's two different projects there. There is the sidewalk project, that there'll be a sidewalk from their new health building all the way down to the end of their property, and then it will keep on going to Mouse Creek. So there'll be curb, a planting strip, sidewalk, or, I'm sorry,
It's
it's
Paul Huff.
Paul Huff.
That's what I'm saying.
In my mind, it was Paul Huff. So that's the one part of that, and we have a design ready for that as well. So that's designed. The second piece is, the federal part of that, and if you look in the federal projects that we have, it's doing the roundabout and the paving of the street all the way down, and that's still probably, a year or so away from being able to get to that. So that comes second. First thing we'll do the sidewalk and the curb all the way down, and then the state project will come and we will pave and, do the final fixes on the road.
Correct me if I'm wrong, when I came on council, I think that the Atkinson Drive had $200,000 at 80-20 split at that time. That's been 5 years ago, am I right about that, Jonathan?
Yeah, but that was,
I
the
guess,
cost estimate blew that out of the water when we didn't have near enough money to do it.
okay, so we walked away from it at that
Yeah,
point.
we actually bid it once, and it was astronomical.
Because the reason we split it was because I think the cost estimate was gonna be up to about $4 million, 5.5. We think that we can make that up on taking, and here's the reason why. When you get into these state projects, as we found on 17th and 20th, is you're putting in huge concrete piping, and you have to dig to China, and you're basically building the same spec as you would be a highway, correct, Jonathan? On something like that, we can have a different spec, and we can be more strategic about it, so we can reduce our costs sufficiently on more of these secondary roads. So we split that, which then got the state project back in budget, and go from there.
Candy's Greenway, it's not complete all the way up to Candy's. When will that be complete? It's been sitting dormant here for some time now. It's not finished all the way up, so. What-
Did you say the Candace Greenway?
Yeah,
We
we,
made a pour Friday, and, we're trying to get it on up there, it's just been so wet, we can't get down there to it.
okay.
We made a pour till Friday, come all the way to the curb on the way.
Yeah, I saw it
down.
out there, so it'll take it all the way up the street and go up the street where you get on the sidewalk, correct?
Yeah, we'll go up to where you get on the street.
And to, two more questions real quick, is this Vice Mayor, he talked about downtown renovation. What about Emmons Street restriping? You spoke about that sometime, that the state was gonna come in and restripe that. Is there any update on that?
Yeah,
See how it works?
yeah, in fact, we met on it this morning. Cleveland Utilities has everything ordered, new cabinets, new mast arm poles, new street lights for that, and they should be in the next couple months. They will be placed in there. And remember, the reason that we're doing that is because all that infrastructure is 40-plus years old. It's probably the oldest that we have in the city. Once they have that in there and the traffic lights are all working correctly, then the state will be scheduled to come and they will pave right after we get the street lights.
How will that impact, Kim, maybe, or David, I'm asking you guys, impact the water and sewer if we do the sidewalks and put these mass arms? Is that time that Cleveland Utilities goes and cleans some of those pipes up? They're 75 years old. I mean, just I'm just asking a question. So it's like cutting a road. I don't want to cut a.
Here's the answer to your question.
Yeah,
We are, in fact, that what we talked about this morning is it literally broke us on doing that Edward Street because all the concrete, the 8-foot road section underneath that. So we're doing coring along the Inman Street corridor to see how much of that is concrete and how much of that is just asphalt down there. And we should have that in the next week. In fact, if you went out there, you'll see all the one-call marks out there on the street and all that. If we think that there is not concrete underneath there, if there's not concrete, we will probably start talking to Cleveland Utilities about coming and doing some upgrades while we're in doing some of that. If it's all concrete, that would be a major project, and we would have to have more conversation. So that's the first question of whether there's that concrete underneath that.
Okay. And last question I have is, we've talked about this before, is Roy alternators to be in, having the state come in with federal grant to clean that up, to get with the state. Have we made any contact with the state to get them in here to do an ultrasound on that property for clean the tank up for federal money?
We decided to let our architect be the point on that when we get that person engaged, and so that they can help coordinate any of that work with the design or anything like that. So there's that they may have experience in that, they may know the program better than us, know what to expect. They have some experience.
You have to get on a wait list. I mean, to just do an alternate, you just do a scan on it, and then they determine, I don't know, that could be something done right now, Joe, I think, just to determine if there are tanks in there, and then go back and kind of kick and figure out how we're gonna go about doing when we do the project. I would encourage you to try to at least get that on the list, because they may have a wait list. It may be several months before they can actually get in to do that. So it may be a hindrance to what we're trying to do down there. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman May?
Couple things, Joe. Michigan Avenue, it's on the list. It seems like it's going slow. Tasso to 20th to 25th Street.
I believe we have a design for that, Jonathan. We can, when we bring all these designs, we'll bring the design for that.
Okay. And while we're talking, I mean, we've got so much on our plate, but I think we need to start looking at Blythe Ferry Road on the safety issues. It's one of the worst roads we've got. And traffic has really increased in the last 45 years. It's kind of a shortcut. And, I know Tommy's worked on it before and has improved it. And the worst place is I don't think we can improve it without more right-of-way. I think that's always been a problem. And I think we may have to buy some land right-of-way or whatever, but if you would start looking at that.
For sure.
That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman
And
Hughes?
I believe on
Yes, sir.
Michigan and Minnes that we're getting closer on that, right? Yeah, we're
Joe, just following up
I know.
on Mr. Cassidy's question about Atkinson. Now, the sidewalk's gonna be from Cleveland State to Paul Huff,
right.
And will we do that before we do the road?
Yes,
That will be done before?
yes.
Okay. And I wasn't real clear on where we stand with the road and when that will be done.
Yeah, let me take another shot at it. The sidewalk will start fairly soon. We have the designs for that. So it'll be a curb, planting space, sidewalk,
I
all
got
the way
that.
down to Paul Huff. That will be all in and constructed. And then there's another federal project that will pay 80% of paving all that road and potentially the roundabout,
Okay.
all the way down. So that comes hopefully right on the heels of that. The reason we're doing that, because the state will pay 80% of our paving costs. That road probably, I bet is probably $800,000 in paving, and if you get the state to pay 600 of that, that's why we're doing it that way.
It would be good, while we're doing the sidewalk there, if we could go across and do frontage road in front of those hotels, and there's gonna be a restaurant on the corner there of Paul Huff and frontage. Then you're gonna have 3 hotels.
Taking sidewalk all the way down there,
I'd say that would be good if we could.
I don't think, I
Go,
probably agree.
go at
with
least where the shopping center is.
Yeah, I probably agree with that.
That would be good if we could do that. And also the LPRs, if we don't get a grant for that, I certainly would like to see that as a budgeted item, because we've been talking about it for about 2.5 years now.
Yeah, I believe, Mark, you guys got the notification on some of the LPR stuff?
Just the, one part, the first part of the grant, so.
So, but at some point, you were gonna move pretty quick on that and have that stuff up pretty soon.
Yeah, we just get final say on it. It's supposed to be March the 1st, but it's got delayed. And then the second part, the bigger part, we haven't heard any word back on it yet.
So all the funding is in place. Once they get final approval, then they'll pull the trigger and Motorola will probably start doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Motorola technically is waiting, waiting on us to, let them know when we're ready, so.
Joe, one thing, go ahead, Marcia.
Will those sidewalks be on both sides of Atkinson? It's one side.
No, right now it'd be on just, the school side, it'd be on one side. And one of the reasons for that is, and there would be some crosswalks and we'll have some there's a lot of residences that live back in there. And we will put, turn lanes in and crosswalks so that people can get across from the neighborhoods and get to the sidewalk. That, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, is that cross section, it's all comes on a hill. Putting the sidewalk on the other side, you would end up putting probably a huge amount of,
Retaining wall and handrail.
retaining wall, your cost will probably quadruple. So that's why we did it on the upward side of the hill.
Joe, I got more questions on Mouse Creek than
That was
anything
gonna be
else.
mine.
I mean, numerous people are concerned about Mouse Creek. And of course, it is the traffic is, in the last few years, has really increased. And, you know, that's just an area we need to really get done as quickly as we can.
You know, we agree. Jonathan and I were out there last week. Was that when we were out there? And we're actually, we're kicking around the idea, and don't take this as a project, but I think it was a good idea that Jonathan had, is that there's some areas that are pretty odd, are ditch sections out there. And just going out and piping some of those ditches out there would allow us, when we go and repave it, to put a couple feet on each side of the road. And I think that would help the safety concerns out there, is just giving more pavement, more variability in doing that. So very, very high level analysis, that's one of the things that we're looking at.
Okay, good. And I think there's some potholes out there, Tommy, that got a call from a man by the name of Darrell Melton. And he said the roads need some attention. Pass that on to you.
Councilman Webb, you had a follow-up?
I did. Didn't we talk about some left turn lanes on Mouse Creek Road at one time?
They're part of the project list.
Okay.
There's a left-hand turn widening all the way at Mohawk, which is a tricky intersection, which will help with
Yeah,
that.
very tricky.
And then there's
Yeah.
one further up that I can't remember exactly where it is. So there's two left-hand turn lanes that we have proposed, and then some of these widening areas on some strategic places.
Are those turn lanes on the priority list, or are they just in the project list?
They're in the project list. The one will be done with the Mouse Creek project. So when you saw the Mouse Creek project, it's on there.
Okay. That's the one on Mohawk.
And we already have that one designed as well.
Councilman Hughes, one follow-up?
Doug, this is your can, right? Can you see that from there?
That's about what I can show you.
Okay, as we end here, I just want to say, it would be good for you to put an arrow there. People will get that mixed up if you don't do that. I think it'd be good to put an arrow which way you want it,
Yes.
would
We can
help.
address that. This is the way it looked. The only thing that's not on this one is the phone number, which should be our phone number.
It's not your cell number.
No, BR 549 is not available.
Look at that thing, it's stamped on top, isn't it? Which way you,
It can be.
yeah,
The ones I've seen are have it stamped
Yeah.
on top, this side toward the road.
this, yeah, roadside, yeah,
That's Dakota's problem. He'll get that done.
okay.
Okay, they are stamped.
Thank you, Mr. Leon.
Yes, sir.
Well, Doug, if we have any problems, I'm gonna call you.
Hey, y'all been calling me for years.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I retired on Friday, and on Tuesday, I signed my consulting agreement, so they still got me until I think they're gonna dig me up.
Mr.
Out of the ground.
That's right.
and have a problem.
Mr. Fivas, we have about 3
My phone
minutes.
number will be underneath that. That was just the first rendering, we didn't have that.
I thought I was a caboose on that.
We have about 3 minutes before we begin our 3 o'clock session, and so I'm going to real quickly follow up on the comments from Councilman Hughes and Councilman Webb. There was a proposal that's no longer on the BZA about adding a large Montessori school on Mouse Creek, which would increase the traffic by 200 cars a day. It began another conversation of the Cleveland Police Department quickly reported that there were, in the last 12 months, 54 accidents between the soccer complex and Paul Huff.
Wow.
If you extrapolate the fact that Councilman Estes is excited we're improving the soccer complex, and you combine that with the fact that our priority list has got the Mouse Creek interchange expansion, which is both needed, what we're doing is we're really sort of encouraging more traffic to Mouse Creek. So I'm thankful to hear that Jonathan and you have come up with a plan. I think the widening or the potential covering of the creeks, something that would be greatly helpful, and just want to extend my support of all of that, as well as my encouragement. I like the question of Councilman Webb, is it project list or priority list? And I think you would find a lot of support for Mouse Creek, just as Blythe, two very old roads that have not kept up with our growth in either one of those sections of residential growth, cut-through growth. So I would encourage that. I've had a request, or at least a suggestion, a strong suggestion, from the councilman of the 5th District to move our reports of the council members to the 3 o'clock, which I think is great, at 2:59. Any other announcements from the council? Mr. Fivas?
We might have to stop the clock for a minute. Raider Drive, we do have the keys for the Raider Drive building.
Hallelujah.
Question is, there's been some inquiries about use of the building and all those things. How do you want us to facilitate those questions with?
Yeah, Councilman Cast is saying, let's address that at the 3 o'clock, that we can put that under new business. I know that this Department of Education or the school board had submitted to us a memorandum of their potential use. So why don't we put that under new business at 3? Perfect. All right. Without further ado, we're adjourned for 60 seconds.